Hey everybody, Brian from Audiohead here. Today we have the new HE-560 from HiFiMAN. It is a planar magnetic headphone that retails for around $8.99, so it's up there near the kind of flagship price point. Flagship of sorts, no doubt, for HiFiMAN, replacing the HE-500 in this case, while the HE-6 still sits atop the food chain, so to speak, of the product line for HiFiMAN. It's quite hard to drive, and it's just not as ubiquitous as these easier to drive, kind of smaller, more manageable headphones. And when the HE-500 came out, a lot of people were, just started to ask themselves, is the HE-6 worth it? Well, I have heard the HE-6, and powered correctly, it is quite amazing. It is worthy of its flagship status. However, I should note it's soon to be replaced by the HE-1000. That's I saw at CES this year. So HiFiMAN's got a lot of stuff going on. But getting back to what I was saying before, it is a little bit of a hassle. You can't drive it so easily. It needs a lot of juice from the amp. And these are just a great middle ground. I kind of like the price point being just under $1,000. I also like the fact that you can drive them from a regular amp. Now, these are not the easiest to drive headphones on the planet. They still require an amp to sound their best, as a lot of things do, but they're not like as low as some of the new other planars that have come out and have gone in terms of how sensitive they are. They're still up there a little bit. You'll see a slight power decrease over like your normal run-of-the-mill mainstream headphone. But the good news is these puppies sound pretty juicy. They sound pretty good. I was actually very, very impressed when I first put them on in terms of sound staging and focus and three-dimensional holographic kind of staging from left to right and front to back. I feel like the dimensionality with these was probably one of the biggest takeaways, and that is, it also kind of stems from a very acute sense of detail. So highly detailed, really great bass like the planars are known for, good texture in the mids, but I would say the top end extension and the highs is pretty exceptional from these headphones as well. Now, that being said, my reference, my favorite pair of this very moment is still the Audeze LCD3, but that is because I prefer the laid-back sound signature in the treble. So there's a little less treble on the Audeze's LCD3 compared to these, the HiFiMAN HE-560. So that sound signature is a little bit more treble, but the staging and the surrounding kind of focused instrument placement is pretty darn good on these. So even though I still prefer my reference for long-term hearing, these are like nestled up pretty dang close to that. And I think it's pretty noteworthy to point out that they are $900 as opposed to or closer to $2,000 with LCDs. So those looking kind of for a value proposition, even though these are on the more expensive side of things, I'd have to argue there is somewhat of a value proposition there at $900 even when you look at other things in the field and kind of how it compares. So very, very tight resolution. Another really interesting thing is that they've lightened these up. So HiFiMAN has said these are about 30% lighter than a lot of the other headphones out there, and that is true. On the head, they aren't nothing. However, they are much, much less than a lot of planars out there. Now, that's changing. More and more models are coming out that are finding ways to be lighter. But when you kind of talk about HiFiMAN and its roots, it's had the planar tech. It's been doing this for a while. They're making strides in the right direction. So they're really kind of improving upon the way they do things and the way they kind of manufacture more. They're listening to the consumers, basically is what it comes down to. It's a lighter, easier to wear headphone. Kind of still has like a cage-like design around the top that it's not my favorite, but it definitely works. It's definitely wearable. You could do quite a long listening session without too much fatigue. Another good point they've always kind of had is the detachable cable. I've always quite enjoyed this part. If you want to go balanced, change to more expensive, exotic, custom cables, you can get the HiFiMAN connection on the end. Screws right into the headphone, and away you go. It's pretty secure. It doesn't fall off, and also it allows for replacement cables, which I think is something you kind of look for at the when you start getting into the high end of things. It's almost like a requirement of sorts to make sure that it's as versatile as it can be. And if you got this headphone for the long haul, you're going to be able to kind of take care of the wear and tear, or you'll go really long if you have to go all the way to a dedicated headphone amplifier in your house. Those kind of things are nice to see. You can see in the background here I've actually left in the box. So kind of keeping close to a $900 flagship. It has a pretty fancy box, some nice packaging. The overall feel of the headphone isn't maybe as refined as some of the other flagships, but I said it costs, you know, about half as much as some of those other flagships. So I feel like the trade-off is pretty well balanced here. I mean, you get a lower price point, but at the same time, you still get kind of a flagship sound. Others might disagree, and I don't disagree that $900 is not a lot of money. I do think that $900 is a lot of money for a pair of headphones, and so I can definitely understand how some people's expectation would be, oh, I get this headphone and I want like a really high-end feel, but it's not bad. I think it's kind of nice. It doesn't bother me all too much, but it's not like solid gold or anything. The new HE-1000 that's coming out, it's got a little more bling to the look, a little more kind of a flashiness, but these are like a nice, simple, understated pair of headphones that don't, I mean, they're fairly large in nature, so I don't know if you're going to wear them outside. You still might turn some heads, but it's not overtly ridiculous. I kind of like the look. It's a little classic feel to me. There's some wood edging around, and the ear cup is just, you know, plain, not too much going over the top. I think it's nice, simple, plain, good sounding. I actually really like this headphone a lot, above quite a few of the other headphones that I've heard. If you get a chance to listen to it, I highly recommend it. To see, like I said before, the sound signature is a little bit more treble forward than some of the other stuff. It's really kind of just two camps, but I do feel like it still feels balanced on the head from top to bottom. Bass is not overinflated, but it's still nice, deep, thumpy. Mids are equally balanced. It's a nice balanced headphone, but a little bit more treble than some of the other planar magnetics on the market currently. So this is the HiFiMAN HE-560, $900 headphone. Really nice. I'm very excited about this one to kind of get it in the lab here and listen to it. So check it out if you get the chance. Thanks for watching. Later.